Hello everybody, thanks for stopping by the channel. This is a replay of a video from 2018, I think in November 2018, where I go over to Karl's and we discuss safely moving heavy equipment. I came across it and I thought, boy, it's time to replay this video. Safety is paramount, and lots of good tips that Karl expressed. Hope you enjoyed it and have a great and safe week. This is my toe jack that I built some time ago. I've got videos on it. I called it the Mitchell. A good friend of mine, Steve, was in a bad way with cancer, and he was one of the toughest people, the friends that I've ever met. And I was proud to name it the Mitchell. Hopefully this tool would be as tough as Steve was. Steve has passed on. I know he's watching. So mine was a copy of an Enerpack. I think this weighs, we weighed it the other day with Karl. I forget what it weighs, 25 pounds or something. I think the Enerpack is 75 pounds. Of course, I don't have the RAM in here right now. But it's been a good machine, good tool, and Karl was impressed with it and opted to make a version of it. And we're going to take a run over to Karl's and see his build and builds of a couple of toe jacks, along with a very good discussion on moving equipment, mills, lathes, what have you. I always like to share this. As you can see, it says China on the side. My friend Tom Lipton was here, and I left him alone in my shop, and this was there, and he tagged it. So I'm not changing it. It just reminds me of my good friend Tom, and he's my mentor, and he likes to dig on me whenever he can. So let's take a run over to Karl's. And I think you'll enjoy it, and then we'll finish up back here for a quickie. Well, as I mentioned over at my shop, I was going to take a visit over with Karl here. Karl has moved many machines in his day by himself, a lot, and I've had the pleasure and fun of Karl helping me move various machines in my shop. As I mentioned, my toe jack build, that Karl was going to do a toe jack build also, and that blossomed into just that we thought we'd do a general discussion on machinery moving. I think would be helpful for a lot of guys. So Karl, I think you're on the video there. Yeah, hello, say hello, Karl, and go on.
Well, hello, Chuck. Thanks for coming over with your camera and giving me a chance to sort of display my basic machinery moving equipment. Now, as Chuck said, this began when I saw his copy of the Enerpack toe jack, and I says, boy, I could sure use something like that. Many years ago, I made a real simple toe jack that used a Enerpack 2-inch stroke cylinder, and it was really handy. I used it enough that I finally bent it out of shape and had to throw it away. So when I saw his, I says, well, I'll build one. Well, I made something that used he has, I think, at least a 10-inch, a 6-inch stroke jack, and this is only a 2. So mine's quite a bit shorter, and it turned out quite a bit simpler. Now, in order to use a toe jack, you first have to get it up far enough to clear the thickness of the base plate. And so if you're lucky, your machine will have slots or places where you can get a crowbar underneath it, pry bar. If not, right here is my set of wedges. Those are usually known as, I think they're pipe fitters or flange wedges. Pipe fitters use them to break the joints on flanges, and particularly where the gasket has seated hard and it needs a little bit of persuasion to break loose. So I keep those around just in case I need to start driving those on the floor underneath the base of the machine to get it lifted. Once you get it up on something, whether it's on a cutout in the base of the machine or on a wedge, now you can slide the toe jack underneath it and get moving. So we'll take a quick look at mine. There's the standard inner pack cylinder cap, and here is the slider. And this carries the toe, which in this case is made out of a piece of 3/8 by 2 by 3 angle iron, piece of a 3-inch square tubing, 1/4-inch wall, courtesy of Chuck. It's got various pads built into it as shims that take up all of the play. These are just simply, these are micarta. This is a piece of 5/8 inch masonite that I had on hand. Good stuff. And now you can see the internal construction. It's just a cylinder bolted to the base plate. Really a very simple construction. But when I finished it and hooked it all up to my pump I got a 6-foot hose, I says, you know, this is kind of awkward, because every time you want to move the toe jack around, you got to grab the pump, and you got the hose, and you're always wiggling on stuff. I said, well, let me try a design based on a bottle jack. So here is my bottle jack toe jack. Well, do I need 2? No, but you know, you get started on these projects, it's hard to stop. So we'll take a quick look at this one. Oops. Sorry, I'm disassembling it the wrong way. The standard has to come off first. So here's the standard. I haven't welded it to the base plate yet, but you can see it's just a piece of 5-inch square steel tube cut into various places to clear this, that, and everything else. Here's the slider. Of course, now the slider has to be cut to clear the pump handle, and it also has to be cleared inside for the movement of this as it rocks back and forth. So you need a pretty good sized chunk of tubing to start with, and so that fits down over like that, and that's just a temporary assembly. In the final assembly, this has to go on last. That's the only way you can put it together. Otherwise, things get in the way of each other. So these are the hydraulic toe jacks. This is my set of, what do you call them?
Rollers.
Just
Machine
rollers.
machine
Yeah,
rollers.
there's another name for it. I can't think of it right off. When I first started
Trucks.
moving machinery,
Trucks.
yeah, I don't know. When I first started moving machinery, I thought these things were the bee's knees, and so I made myself a set. Well, I almost face planted a 16-inch south bend because one of these just walked away from the load. I mean, at any given time, only 3 of these are going to be supporting weight. At any time, one of these is going to be light, and all it takes is a 32nd of an inch difference in grade, and one of these is going to roll away, leaving you an unsupported corner on a machine tool. So some of them are built with where you can bolt them together. You can use threaded rod to hold them together to keep the skate from moving away. But the skate, that's the word I was looking for. My rule now is I got them. I don't use them. You can see the paint on these is practically new. For an amateur, for a guy working by himself, don't use skates. Now, that brings up another issue. Well, when we get to it, my rule is on a machine tool, it always has 4 points of support. If you are working with a pry bar or a jack and you're lifting at one place to support it, make sure, now you only have 3 points of support, make sure that the 4th cannot fall any more than ½ an inch. Sometimes I'll go an inch, depending on how I feel about the layout, but I do not want to, at any time, to have a corner or a side that can fall any farther than ½ inch to an inch, something like that. That's my number 1 rule. So,
And that rule is so that the machine can't topple.
cannot topple. It
Because
is-
you're not going to hold a 3,000 or 5,000 pound machine when it starts to move, right?
Yeah, that's rule 1, is that you cannot put yourself in any position where a machine can possibly topple. I've even at one point or another, I think I have bolted bars or clamped bars onto a machine and put something under it so that you just can't tip. So the things to think about. Now, so we started here. We've gotten it on our first lift. We've gotten far enough to get a toe jack or a pry bar under it. So now let's look at the pry bars. So for small work, this one is my favorite. Left on a job by somebody. It was on a curb. Contractors had cleared out. I says, well, guys, thank you. It's mine. For smaller, anything up to about 1,000 pounds, this is my favorite. I use it a lot, and it's close coupled so that I can pry and get my other hand in there and get the blocks underneath the machine. When you have more weight, I like this. It has one advantage: it leaves you standing. But if you're standing, then you need a second person to be putting blocks, and so that's the. This is a 5-foot bar, I think. 4, 5. That's a 4-foot bar. But this one has a lot of lift range, and so it's good for a lighter machine, and it gives you a little bit more lift range. And if you go up an inch, that's pretty good. This one is I believe a 5-foot bar, has less lift range, but it has more leverage. So again, you need a second person to put your blocks, but this one works really well. Okay, so let's look at the blocks. And this is probably my most used piece of equipment here, next to these. There's a set of 1/4 inch plywood. They're all cut to the same size. Because most of my work I go up 1/2 inch at a time, I've got a lot of 1/2 inch blocks. I've got a lot of 3/4 inch blocks. I don't often see 1/2 inch plywood, 1 inch plywood, so I only have a few 1 inch blocks, and I've got a lot of 2x4 blocks. And these get used a lot for both lifting, and you can see the surface. They also get used for prying. So the blocks are used as you work your way up. You lift one area, you put a block in, you go around and you put another block in. As you go beyond the range of your pry bar, now you need a heel block, something for the heel of the pry bar. And so these get used both for supporting the machine and supporting the heel of the pry bar. Handy. Now, once you get the machine up in the air and you're getting ready to transport it, the next thing is, particularly on lathes that have pedestals, it's nice to have the lathe sitting on something and spans the distance between the pedestals. You're going to put it on pipe rollers. I roll exclusively on these angle irons and my pipe rollers. So this is 1/4 by 3 by 3 angle. I've put up to, I think, right around 5,000 pounds on it. Hasn't been anywhere. Probably one of my best finds in a scrapyard for machinery moving. You notice that there are thread rod, front and back. The machine being moved is trapped between rods. If it's a heavy machine, I'll go to 1/2, or even someplace I have 3/4 rod, because if you're going on a grade, these will also prevent the machine from sliding forward or aft. The main purpose of these is to keep the rods from going wonky. And so if you snug these up fairly close, then you can come in with a pry bar and you can go like this, and you can move everything sideways to turn a corner or to position it back in the center of your rollers or whatever you need to do. So that's an important part, is to keep your angle irons tied together so that one of them can't go off in the weeds like the skates will do. So I have 3 different sets of angle. Biggest, there's an intermediate size which I didn't get out, and then these are 1/4 by 2 by 2. And for example, like a surface grinder would go on, a small surface grinder, say Boyer Schultz or something that size would go on these. Now, every now and then you have to teach your rollers, pipe rollers. I have a set of 5. These are Schedule 40 2-inch pipe, and they run 2.5 to 3 feet long. Typically you want 3 underneath your angle iron at all time, and that leaves your other 2 for just in case. Sometimes you get 2 of them gathered up together, and now you got a 4th one to use. But if you're trying to steer around a corner, then you can put one like this, and you can put another one over here like that, and bar this thing around until you move from one pipe to the other, and now you can go off at an angle. So 5, I think, is about the minimum number of rollers for this kind of stuff.
The other thing on your sled, which we did with my Monarch, the Monarch has one side is very wide, and at the tailstock side it's narrow. So what we did is we had a cross piece of angle iron between the sled legs to support the tailstock side, which allows you a lot of adjustability with using the sled.
And that you definitely want to secure that with the cross piece, because if that goes out, then that lathe is going to go down on that corner and over she goes. Lathes top heavy. Mills are almost top heavy, but not so bad. But lathes are an extraordinarily dangerous piece of equipment to move. Now the other thing, this is another essential tool. Sometimes you need to teach your pipes how to behave. And so it's really handy to be able to go like this. Or like that. And you'll be surprised as you learn how to move on pipe rollers how much that will turn. And so another key piece of equipment. So did we cover everything? I think I don't see any strangers left here that we didn't talk about. Once again, I'm going to repeat myself. 4 points of support under a machine tool whenever possible or at all times. If you're on 3 points, which would be like a pry bar, and 2 blocks on the other side, then make sure that the other 2 points are still blocked, and they're blocked so that the machine cannot drop any more than 1/2 to 1 inch. The second thing is, if you are working 2 people, the tendency is each guy wants to solve the problem. And so one guy is doing one thing, and the other guy will tend to do something else. It's easy to get a finger trapped, or somebody starts lifting and he doesn't realize the block is missing over there. Every move is talked about while you're standing there, no hands on the tools. When you go to do something, you both know exactly what you're going to do, so that there's no improvisation. There is no getting, oh, I can do that, and then that'll speed things up type things. Is you talk about it, then you do it, but you only do what you've talked about. So you each understand what the other is doing. Or you say, hey Chuck, if I lift here, can you get that over there? But you always discuss it so everybody knows where everybody's hands is, everybody knows where your supports are. Can't tell you enough. And don't use skates. I hate them things.
Yeah,
Thank you.
There's no rush to move a piece of equipment, because all it's going to do is create harm. The other thing is, if you're on a grade, you need a block and tackle or a come along or something to bind the weight from rolling too fast on the rollers. I did it when I moved my Monarch by myself. I actually used the come alongs to secure it.
Yep.
So yeah, good safety discussion, guys. And appreciate it, Karl, spending some time and bringing out the items. As I said, we've moved some equipment together, and always had a good time and adventure. And hopefully we move more equipment. I don't know. I have to go in your shop, though.
Yeah. Well, I just realized I missed one thing, and that is whenever you are moving something and you have steel setting or cast iron setting on steel, put a piece of wood in between. Yep. That increases your coefficient of friction, and it does a whole lot for keeping things from sliding around. And that's why, these were cut exactly to that size, and that's the purpose, is that you do not set a machine directly on a skate. If you're going to use them, don't put the machine right on the skate, put them on a piece of wood. All right, I've thought about enough things.
All right.
It's been a lot of fun. Thanks, guys, for listening to me drivel on. I always enjoy talking to Chuck's subscribers.
Thanks, Karl. Okay, Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you stuck through all the way. As always, I'm here for entertainment, a little education. Just hopefully you guys are enjoying and I'm having fun while I'm doing it. If you enjoyed, hit the subscribe button. There's always much more items, and I'm getting close to 400 videos on YouTube. All right. Thanks again for stopping by, and have a happy Thanksgiving.